Frank James. I came here in '86. Well, I actually came here in 1976 as a student, and graduated in '81 through the CLIP program and stuff like that. Then I came here in '86 as a instructor.
Okay.
The requirements, I guess, at that point in time was a master's degree or better. I had an associate's degree. Louise Corwin says he needed a master's degree or an equivalent. I said, well, what's the equivalent? She says, 13 years in the field. I said, in that case, I got 2 of them. I had 28 years. So he hired me, and then I still had to go out and get my bachelor's and work on a master's.
All right.
Anything else?
Was that the hiring process, just one meeting, or was there a committee? How'd they hire?
There was a committee. There was a search committee and stuff like that. There was 20 people, I guess, at that point in time who had applied.
Right.
And when it became my turn, they told me I hit a home run, and I beat 3 people out with master's degrees and liked what I had to offer, and so they hired me.
Great. So tell me your first impression of being in the classroom here as an instructor at MCC.
Oh, that was pretty exciting. I mean, I like anybody else probably who's looking for an interview, practices the interview.
Right.
And then it turned out it was pretty challenging, I guess, to find out that I thought it was tough being a student. I found out being an instructor was. I always tell people, I said, you learn 2 ways, by being taught and by teaching. You have to do your research and so on like that to find more. So I probably learned as much as the students as the students did. Matter of fact, I always said at MCC is, at any community college is a best conduit for learning, because it's a learning process because you have people from all ages.
Right.
So we helped at each other say, well, that's not exactly the way it goes. Things are a little bit different in real life.
Right.
So I learned that through the CLIP program.
So you're in the classroom for the first time at MCC. What were the facilities like? Where were you located? Where was the kitchen?
Well, I mean, from the new building, the low building, still using some of the antiquated equipment that we had from when the fire took place down in the East Campus. Had transferred that stuff over and learned, start using some of the equipment. Of course, when we would put on meals, besides the teaching, I taught, baking, international foods, basic foods, and foods 101 and 102.
Right.
And when we were doing the meals, like I said, even though it's a classroom, when it's 5 minutes before serving time, I'm no longer the instructor. I then become the chef. And start pointing fingers. So we still had the person out there, especially the president, wasn't interested in a learning process at that point in time. They just wanted end results.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you teaching in the East Campus, in that facility at all?
No, I didn't teach in the East.
You came after the whole building.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a student down there.
Right. Can you give us some early thoughts or memories that you have of either department meetings or division meetings or faculty staff meetings?
That's more interested in constructive criticism, what you're looking for, rather than, some of the things that took place, I guess, I can, as far as the feathers, I guess, I don't know.
Either way.
Well, some after a few years, I was voted Chef of the Year for 1990 for the Connecticut Chefs for Chefs of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I remember being instrumental in getting MCC accredited in the prestigious American Culinary Federation to get that thing started. So knowing that, I think we had a good program going, but we said I was a certification chairman for the Chefs Association for 15 years, and I felt that as a person, we thought about a student being like a knife. One's got to keep it sharp, and in order to make it good cutting edge, the student has to have a good upper hand, especially in the days of global competition. I felt that this was my chance to hone some of those and pass some of the information on that I had. Mm-hmm. Not just in the learning process. So I don't know if I'm hitting the nail on the head there or
No,
not.
you're doing fine. Anything that you remember in particular about any stories you could share with us, or anything about the students or some of the competitions they entered in the food service area?
Yeah. I recall one time I had one student, we competed in quite a few things. One student, I remember when we put the things in AquaTurf, I guess it was, the Connecticut food show, chef's food show, that they were going to disqualify the one product because they thought it was done with a machine. It was so perfect. And here was one of my students, Joanne. She had such perfect hand of making little drop flowers that the fellow said and we made petit fours and stuff like that. He was so excited about how nice they were that he couldn't imagine that a student could have made them so perfect. So I always said that I could do one thing, but I said, you all know that a teacher's greatest dream is the student becomes better than them. And she certainly was. She made them perfect, that they almost thought they were machine made. But he said he gave them the benefit of the doubt and walked away with a blue ribbon on it.
Wow, that's great.
So it was pretty exciting.
Yeah. How about your general image of the college, comparing it to when you first arrived to where you see it today? Changes, just observations about it in general?
I'd almost like it was like a diamond in the rough. And now it's, what I see now, it's like the polished diamond, as opposed to before.
Right.
Yeah, it was good then.
Right.
But it just became much better. I remember seeing those flower trials from way back, and they turned into different people at that point in time.
Is that right?
When they had a Volkswagen bus and then turned into there was the days of Alice's Restaurant, and then all of a sudden it became something different.
Right.
Some changed, some didn't.
You remember those days. Anything that really stands out for you in terms of an event or something that happened at the college, either in classroom or in general? I'm thinking about the fire, for instance, in the East Campus. Anything else like that stands out for you?
Yeah, I guess we got accused of the food getting burned on the stove, but it was really an electrical problem.
Right.
Yeah, I remember a couple of things that I made a note to recall that. I don't remember, it was 95, 2 years. Our students, one thing, had made a gingerbread train in the scale model of the Essex motor train in gingerbread, 6 cars.
Right.
And it was for a silent auction for helping out, I guess, battered women and some other cause. One was Michael Bolton's battered women fund that was taking place at the governor's mansion. We did 2 years. First year we got $800 more than anybody else in all the beautiful gingerbread houses that were made. So we made it in the form of a train. And one of my students who had an engineering background went down there and did it to scale, mapped it out, and then we put it together. The second year we raised got $1,000 for the same thing during one of those snow days.
Right.
That was pretty bad. Something else you get to. Can't think of any. There's just so many. Oh, the culinary program had really flourished in having those gourmet dinners that we put on. We put on so many fundraisers, and one of them being the Neurofibromatosis Foundation, which we raised thousands of dollars for that by kids putting on meals and stuff like that. And a lot of these kids, we had a Sin Center program. The one who was the top-notch kid in the class became the executive chef for that particular reason and run the show. Right. So they really learned, which I liked about MCC, the way it was set up. I always told them that being a teacher, that the kids will learn in the process of starting off with one program. One day they may be a dishwasher, the next day they're the chef. So they learn one thing. If they learn nothing else, they learn how to communicate between the front of the house and the back of the house. Mm. And many of us who are out in the field or go to a restaurant and been working in a restaurant, knowing that people in the back of the house usually didn't get along with the front of the house. And it reminds me of the competition between military branches where one fought about the others, and they found out this is the same type of thing, even though they were on the same team, that they learned, if nothing else, they learned how tough it was by walking in somebody else's shoes. So one day they may be the dining room manager, the next day they're in the back of the house, and a chef or a dishwasher, so on. They learned both sides of the table.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty important.
They see all aspects of it.
Yeah, right, yeah. And that I told him, I said, remember this line, that you are a tool of your employer. If they don't need you, they're going to replace it, get a different tool when it works. Mm-hmm. So the more valuable you are to your employer and to the school, the more valuable you are later on in life. So hone your skills as best you can. And I help do that.
How about thinking either colleagues or students that you've had interaction with in the past, people who left a lasting impression on you? Any good memories you have there?
Man, a dozen of them. Some exciting, some. Well, let me tell you one scary moment. Mm-hmm. I guess a particular student that was having some difficulty. We had to set up a contract type thing. It was like it was a grade school type of situation way back, and she gave one of the teachers, not me, a different one, some guff, and it could have been Chuck or somebody telling me about this. That yes, I had to be careful about it. I think it was Chuck, might have been told me this. Be careful, but there was one student that had gone out to Hartford Hospital, was working in the medical field like that, and he had a confrontation with a doctor, took his scrubs off right there in the operating room, threw them across the counter, and left right over top of a patient, and the doctor told him to get out of his operating room. Went down and down to his locker and got a .45 automatic and went up to shoot him, and of course they subdued him. So they said, "You be careful about this girl who's coming back. She has to come back." And he said, "Make sure you're in somebody who was giving me advice. Make sure you're in a small room or large room where you can get away." I said, "That's not a good idea. I'd rather be in a small room where I'm closer to somebody." So we were going out to the car. I was taking one of my students. I was going to give him right over to his car, and all of a sudden this lady come roaring by. She saw us, and a young woman. She hit the brakes, squealed the tires, slid sideways, and I looked. I said, "Oh my God!" And the student said, "Mr. James." My car door was open. I saw her skidding in, something like that, facing me, and I jumped out, opened my door. I thought, she's going to get out and start shooting. I don't know what she's going to shoot me for. I don't know, but. He said, "Mr. James, my car door's locked." I says, "Victor, you're on your own." I ducked behind the door, and up comes her hand like that. And she says, "Hi, Mr. James." She come over, give me a hug. She says, "I'm transferring out of school. I'm going to the Hartford school." I said, "Oh, wow, that's wonderful." I didn't mention her name. And she gave me a big hug, and then she went into the college and sold all her books and so on like that. And I said, "Man, I was sweating." She wasn't after me at all, but I thought I didn't know what I did wrong. But Chuck had me pretty well scared about that. I think it was Chuck.
Right.
So that was an exciting moment.
All right.
Probably one of the other exciting moments was that two of my students who were in the National Guard recommended me for a scholar or an award, and I wound up. They went and took me down called Operation Boss Lift. The Air Force flew me down to Savannah, Georgia, with a bunch of other dignitaries to Army base, Fort Hunter, and then over to the Port Sherman. And at the Officers Club, they presented me with a national defense dedication to a teaching award. When they came back, they then had an invitation for myself and some others to come to up at the Armory it was, and be awarded the Connecticut Chairman's Award. I guess one of the highest awards that can be taught. Was pretty exciting. Yeah. Only I couldn't go because I had my special gourmet dinner and the final exams taking place, so I wasn't able to go. So it was a happy, but not so. So yeah, that was pretty exciting. And at the same time, I couldn't attend it. So,
right.
But so I took the word I forget the word used for abstentia. There you go. Thank you.
Any colleagues also that you had some interesting friendships with? Or
Yeah. Glenn Liber and I were roommates, office mates for quite some time. We've had some exciting times.
Right.
I recall a couple of happy times and some advice to somebody, but I don't. I asked him this advice. What do I do about somebody who's got about the president, about giving the president advice? And when I told him about the situation he had, he said he fell off his chair backwards laughing. I didn't know. I heard it was a sudden clunk, and he tells me that he was laughing so bad when I had asked him about some advice, just newly being there. And he said he fell off the chair laughing because I suggested something, some advice that probably best not be recorded.
Best not be.
Yeah, right. So he laughed and fell off the chair, and I had to wait till he get back up to give me some new advice, which turned out to be pretty good.
If you were giving advice to someone who's recently hired here at MCC, what would you tell them about how to start their career and based on your experience at MCC?
I'd probably tell them the same thing I told my students for the first day. I said that I learned from somebody else in what I had over the years. I said that maybe it's right, maybe it's not wrong, but it worked for me. To get their attention, I said, I don't give out A's. I don't give out F's. And I see them looking back and forth. And I said, you earn them, and I give them. You get what you earn. So in this class, just like it is in the real life, if you don't pull through, you're not going to make it. So it's all in your own ability. I'll go as far as I can to help you, and I've done. One exciting example, got it just for you. Some of my students, again, even though our class was over at 8 o'clock, they had to have their purchase report in. Students, whoever was the chef and the purchasing agent, had to have their orders in for that particular day because I had to put them in to the warehouse, the stock room, so Carl could fill them out, send them out. Anyway, it seemed that there was a break-in, and somebody had in one of the houses, and you probably recall it, over in Manchester, where they abducted a woman, stuffed her in a closet, and they were robbing the place. Anyhow, she had her cell phone with her, and she called the police. And, of course, the police came. He jumped out the window and ran and escaped towards the college. I'm sitting in there at 10 o'clock at night, still with a couple of my students, police officer Tom Clark. That Frank, everybody out of the building. What's wrong? He said, we're locking the place down because there's maybe an escaped criminal, and he may be in the building. We have to escort you out to the car. So he escort us all out to the car, taking students, they put them in their cars, and of course, Tom and Freddie were both in the cars, and they said, took us over to our cars, dropped the one student off at his car, and then taken over to my car, and of course they said, hell, let him walk, jokingly. But they drove me over to it. And knowing the prankster that Tom was, I had to updo him one. When we got to the car, one boy pulled up alongside of us, waiting for him to get in my car. And as I reached for the car door, I jumped back, thinking like there was somebody in the car. The kid squealed the tires and took off. He wasn't going to get shot. He didn't have anything to do with that. And so, of course, with a few special words that Tom displayed upon me, he was correct. Yeah. So I took off. He followed us out to the campus and wound up. I told him ahead of time to meet us over at Dunkin' Donuts, and we'll finish up this report. Well, one thing led to another. We're having a cup of coffee and so on like that. Forgot to tell my wife where I was at. She's calling the school, can't get a hold of the police to try and find out where I was at. Finally, the police called Tom, the campus police, and found out where I was at, that I was over at Dunkin' Donuts. That's before cell phones. So she gets a hold of the people there, and they wouldn't give them my name. She says, no, she said, oh, we can't say who's here. Finally, she said, this is extremely important, so finally they get a hold of me and tell me that she was concerned about me. She's got the police out looking for me. So the students here, three boys, are still there. At 1 o'clock in the morning, finally get our report. They get the report written out and go home. So it was an exciting evening. I guess they did find that turned out that the escaped convict wasn't in the building at all. They did capture him later. Oh, because he was running down the road right near us.
Right.
So.
I do remember that.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting.
All right. Anything else that you'd like to add as far as memories or stories you want to share with us?
Yeah, let's look at this. Yeah, I mean, I thought I could think of a few, but I guess that's there's so many of them that happened. This has been the amount of time I was here was plenty exciting. Especially one of the funny things I guess was watching that big white-haired guy with the I think he was Mark Twain. I think Yeah. He put on those presentations
Visited a couple times.
Yeah, right. Yeah, a few times like that. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that we're seeing, kind of a recurring theme, is the relationships with other people on the campus. So if I could get you to think about outside your own department, what were some of your relationships with, like?
Well, I had a good time. I was involved with that teaching partners.
Oh, yeah, teaching partners.
Yeah, that was exciting. I was with Gloria Magray.
Dorothy Magray.
What's your first name?
Dorothy.
Dorothy Magray, right. And so she switched. She would come up and absorb my class and critique me, and then I critiqued her, and I learned. Again, I said it was a learning type of proposition. We learned from each other in the photography class, which then helped stimulate me even more since my wife and I are into photography, involved in 2 camera clubs, and we've been competing in the fairs all over the place in the camera. Not only just art baking and so on like that, but and flowers and so on, but photos. We've been matter of fact, that's where my wife's at right now, picking up at Hebron Fair. I got 3 blue ribbons on some of my photos and stuff like that. Nice. So I've been learning quite a bit about learning how to take pictures of photos. Take pictures of photos, how to use the camera properly.
Right.
In the past, I've went out west one time and took 120 rolls of film before they had 35 films. By the time I came back, we had 120 rolls of film, and most of them were not very good. Then I took the camera class.
Right.
But that was exciting. So the class with her, we had time with.
A teaching partner program, yeah.
That's called Teaching Partners. That was a very good program. And if they aren't doing it, they should be doing it back again.
Yeah.
That really helped it gave better camaraderie for the people and so on like that.
And it was outside your discipline, so
right, exactly.
Another aspect of the college.
That was a fun thing.
Yeah.
Some of the things I remember had the I don't know if they do that yet. Still, they had the exercise program at the athletic building and so on like that, where people used to join in and stuff like that. Yeah, that was a good one. That's was useful. Boy, there's so many things. When we had the craft fairs, would hear and do the food accommodation type of thing like that, and this open bowls with Linda Coons running that type of thing. It was fabulous. I helped with that so often. Right. That was another great thing for making the community aware of
the
us.
Empty Bowls Project.
The Empty Bowl Project.
Going on, yeah.
Yep, that's a wonderful thing.
All right. Anything else?
Oh boy, there's. I'm sure probably out of time, but I can't think of anything else except I said I retired. And I always remember I became part of the 41 people of the brain drain. I used that line. I noticed that President Dalby used my words when my letter of resignation I had to put in for we're retiring, knowing that the great brain drain that took place at the college at that point in time was. So now some of the people come back to help teach, even though retired, stuff like that helped. So some of that brain drain came back in again a little bit like that. Yeah. So There's probably many more things, but like anything else, I'll probably use up all your time.
No, you did great. Thank you.
Thank you.